Welcome to this biblical study, Modest and Immodest Dressing, Part 2. Even though a woman can be very attractive when she's dressed modestly, a man can still desire her sexually. But when a man sees a woman dressed immodestly, he normally and naturally have a stronger sensual and sexual desire for her more than if she was dressed modestly, and an even stronger sensual or sexual desire for her if he saw her nude. Nudity does not only refer to being fully naked, it can also be referring to being partially naked. Concerning that, according to an internet study, it says nudity is the state of being without clothing. It can also refer to wearing very little clothing compared to what is considered normal in a given culture or situation. Nudity in society. In many societies, nudity is closely linked to sexuality, etc. Why I believe women should be ashamed of dressing immodestly and partially nude in public. At the time babies and children do not know good and evil, wrong or right, they are not ashamed of being seen publicly naked. But around the time they reach puberty or become teenagers and adults, they become naturally ashamed and afraid of being seen naked, even at home in the presence of their own parents, brothers, sisters, and relatives, and especially in public. And around this time is when they know wrong from right and good from evil. And so this is one of the reasons why I believe women should be ashamed of dressing immodestly and partially nude in public. When God created the first man and woman, which was the first marriage between a man and a woman, they were naked in the beginning. And just like children, they did not have knowledge of good and evil. They did not know they was naked and was not ashamed or afraid of being naked. This means their eyes or mental awareness was closed. And at this time, they were the only two living human beings in the world. Concerning that, here is what Genesis chapter 2, verses 22 through 25 says. Then the rib which the Lord God had taken from man, he made into a woman, and he brought her to the man. And Adam said, This is now bone of my bones, and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. Therefore, a man shall leave his father and mother, and be joined to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. And they were both naked, the man and his wife, and were not ashamed. After the first man and woman sinned, their eyes or mental awareness of good and evil was opened, and they had knowledge of good and evil, and was ashamed and afraid of anyone seeing them naked. And they knew they were naked, and so they hid themselves. Concerning that, Genesis chapter 3, verses 6 through 12 reads, So when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree desirable to make one wise, she took of its fruit and ate. She also gave to her husband with her, and he ate. Then the eyes of both of them were open, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves coverings. And they heard the sound of the Lord God walking in the garden in the cool of the day. And Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord God among the trees of the garden. Then the Lord God called to Adam and said to him, "Where are you?" So he said, "I heard your voice in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, and I hid myself." And he said, "Who told you you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree of which I commanded you that you should not eat?" Then the man said, "The woman whom you gave to be with me, she gave me of the tree, and I ate." After that, before any human being was born in the world, the Lord God clothed Adam and Eve. Concerning that, Genesis chapter 3, verses 20 through 21 says, "And Adam called his wife's name Eve, because she was the mother of all living. Also for Adam and his wife, the Lord God made tunics of skin and clothed them." And so these scriptures is another reason why I believe women should be ashamed of dressing immodestly and partially nude in public. Also in the Ethiopian Bible, Jubilee, chapter 3, verses 26 and 30 reads, "And he made for them coats of skin," that is, God made for them coats of skin, and clothed them, and sent them forth from the garden of Eden. Verse 30, "And to Adam alone did he give the wherewithal to cover his shame of all the beasts and cattle. On this account it is prescribed on the heavenly tables as touching all those who know the judgment of the law, that they should cover their shame, and should not uncover themselves as the Gentiles uncover themselves." So though a woman is not fully naked when dressed immodestly, she is partially naked. And in my opinion, she should naturally have some shame and fear dressing that way in public. It's not only shameful for a woman to be publicly nude, but for a man as well. Man and woman nakedness should be covered in public. After Noah drank wine from his vineyard, he was drunk in his tent and was naked. Ham, one of Noah's sons, saw the nakedness of his father and went and told his two brothers, Shem and Japheth. And these two sons of Noah, after hearing their father was naked, took a garment, laid it on both their shoulders, and went backward and covered the nakedness of their father. Ham, the son of Noah, saw his father's nakedness and went and told his brothers, and he was cursed for it. But his brothers was blessed, because after hearing about their father nakedness, they did not see their father nakedness, because their faces was turned away when they took a garment, went backwards, and covered his nakedness. Concerning that, Genesis chapter 9, verse 20 through 27 reads, "And Noah began to be a farmer, and he planted a vineyard. Then he drank of the wine and was drunk, and became uncovered in his tent. And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father, and told his two brothers outside. But Shem and Japheth took a garment, laid it on both their shoulders, and went backward and covered the nakedness of their father. Their faces were turned away, and they did not see their father's nakedness. So Noah awoke from his wine, and knew what his younger son had done to him. Then he said, Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants he shall be to his brethren. And he said, Blessed be the Lord, the God of Shem, and may Canaan be his servant. May God enlarge Japheth, and may he dwell in the tents of Shem, and may Canaan be his servant.